Hi guys, welcome to or back to my channel. My name is Emma. Today's video is going to be 14 ways to de-stress. Particularly right now, I felt like making this video because I need this so badly right now. If I need it, somebody else probably does too. And I also am sitting directly in the sunshine because my soul needs that right now. So I encourage you, if you have a space where you can just sit in the sunshine for a couple of minutes, do it. If you like these kinds of videos where I talk about mindfulness and mental health and things like that, feel free to give this a thumbs up, and if you are not already subscribed, feel free to subscribe. I would love to have you here. Also, there are probably going to be shadows because of the window. Honestly, it doesn't bother me. It's fine. I hope that it doesn't bother you. So my first tip number 1, I wrote them all down in my Harry Potter journal. How amazing is it? My first tip is to journal. This is something that I have been doing almost every day, even if it's only half a page or 1 page or 5 minutes, whatever I can do, anything honestly helps. I have found that to be true just over and over again. Like if I'm feeling sad, if I'm feeling overwhelmed, just writing it out and getting it out on paper and seeing it visually, it's like I've gotten it out of my head and I just feel a lot more clear and a lot more present and not so stuck in whatever was going on in my head that was making me stressed out. For example, if you're overwhelmed about the pandemic happening right now, just write about it. Write it down. You feel like you can't safely talk about it to anyone, just journal about it. That helps so much. And just be really authentic and like really be honest, and don't judge yourself for anything that you say, because everything that you say and everything that you feel is valid. And I think a lot of the time when we are journaling, we kind of end up writing things that we didn't even really know that we were thinking or feeling. If we really allow ourselves to get into the moment and be stream of consciousness and just write it all out, I think sometimes we can surprise ourselves with feelings that we didn't even know that we had or really understand. Getting it all out can help us understand ourselves a lot better, and through that feel less stressed out. So tip number 2 is to pray about it. Personally, I in the last year have changed my spiritual views a lot, and I've kept a lot of things, but I've also let a lot of things go. So for me, instead of calling on spirit guides, which that might be something that you do, I personally have started praying to God, praying to Jesus. When I feel really stressed out about something, that eliminates the stress so completely, because I find that it's just all chaos in my mind. And as soon as I just pray about it, it's like it's out of my mind and I'm giving it to God. Not that I'm never going to worry about that thing again, but knowing that God hears me, He has my back and He's listening. Even, if it feels like nobody else is hearing you or nobody else is listening, I always know that Jesus is listening. And that connection, that spiritual divine connection with something so much more powerful than me, really reminds me that I don't have to keep stressing about things, because He knows. I've prayed about it, I've given it to Him, and that's really all that I can do. Sunshine, come back. I haven't talked this much in a long time. So tip number 3 is to meditate. I have a video that I made a while back talking about my experience with meditating after 7 days and the effects that I had from that. I'm not the most consistent person. I'm not the deepest meditator. It's not my life. It's not even something that I do daily. When I'm stressed out, meditation, it literally takes me from this jumbled up mess of a chaotic mind to feeling completely relaxed. Personally, when I'm super stressed out, I like to just have like silent meditation. I kind of just tune everything out, like turn everything off and sit there and close my eyes and just be. Most recently, I have been using guided meditations, and I will link the ones that I've been using down below. Some of them are for kids, but honestly, those are the best ones for me, because when I don't have anyone else to comfort me, I feel like I'm not safe. So if I can comfort that part of myself through a meditation for kids, I'm gonna do it. Something that's really interesting is that recently I was on a road trip. I saw this butterfly fluttering on the side of the road. I just had this realization: butterflies don't know what's going on right now. They are just fluttering. And I was texting my boyfriend at the time, and I told him, when I get home, I'm just going to visualize being a butterfly, and I feel like that will bring me so much peace. And then I downloaded this app, and one of the meditations was becoming a butterfly, And I just thought that was so crazy. Meditating. It's the most powerful way, in my opinion, to go from a stressful external world to a peaceful internal world. If we are peaceful internally, then it doesn't really matter too much what's going on externally, because really our external world is just a reflection of our internal world. Meditation is something that I have been implementing even more than usual this week, and probably my top tip. If I was going in order, it would probably be my last one at number 1, but I'm not going in order. So number 2 was pray, and 3 is meditate. And personally, the difference that I find between those is that prayer is connecting to God and meditation is connecting to myself. If you believe that God is the self, then they're going to be pretty much synonymous for you. But for me, I kind of distinguish prayer and meditation that way. Tip number 4 is yoga, or stretching, or exercise of some kind. I need something gentle, something that connects me to my body in a peaceful way and not in a rigorous way. So for me, that is yoga. Most of the time, it's just laying out my yoga mat and stretching my body until I feel stretched. Releasing that energy through movement in the body is so powerful for de-stressing. A lot of the time, we have all this energy coursing through us and it just gets trapped in our bodies. And if we're not moving that energy through physical movement, it's just going to be trapped there. So I think personally, one of the next best ways to de-stress is to just move the body, whether that's running, hiking, walking, yoga, stretching, rigorous exercise, lifting weights. Some kind of movement is so important. And for me, that's stretching/yoga. So this next tip is kind of more of a grounding tip. When I talk about grounding, I'm kind of talking about my nervous system being dysregulated. Grounding practices kind of bring me back into regulation, or like feeling peaceful is another way to say that, like feeling calm as opposed to being in fight or flight. So for me, one of the biggest ways that I personally do this, and there are other ways, you can look up grounding techniques, but for me, number 5 would be tapping. You can do this different ways, kind of just like tapping on the body to tell your brain like we're here right now. And I especially do this when I'm feeling dissociated, because I do that a lot when I'm stressed out. I feel like my body just checks out and can't handle it. And I start feeling like I'm floating, like everything is a dream, and like I'm not really here. So in order to ground myself into feeling like I'm right here, right now, is tapping. I'll do this a lot, touch my chest, touch my arms, touch my legs, especially when I'm driving in the car. Like I'll just look at my legs and touch them. That really just brings me back into presence in this moment. It's a great way to just focus on one thing as opposed to 30 different things floating through your mind at a particular time. I will see if I can find some kind of list of grounding techniques that I will link below. In case tapping doesn't really feel like it's gonna work for you, you can try another grounding technique. Number 6 is getting sun. This is again one of the all these are so important, but this is another one of the most important ones on the list, especially now that the sun is starting to come out, at least in now that the sun is starting to come out finally with the spring weather. With everything that's going on right now, I know that getting sun on the skin is so important. I heard somebody say that we are basically plants with emotions. So we need water, we need sun. Even just sitting in your room in front of a window or somewhere in the house in front of a window for 10 minutes, if you're listening to music or a podcast or just sitting in silence, is so healing and so calming for the body. Sunlight can't live without it. You just can't live without it. Number 7 for de-stressing is clean up your space. Now that we're all sitting at home, or not all of us, but a lot of us are probably sitting at home or working at home, it's so important if you're feeling stressed out to make sure that your space is as clean as it can be. This doesn't mean that you have to go crazy and just spend all day cleaning. You can if you want. Having your space organized is such an overlooked and simple way to de-stress. If you have a cluttered space, you're going to have a cluttered mind. You've heard people say that a million times, and it's so true. I am someone whose environment really affects me, so if I have stuff everywhere, I feel like my mind is everywhere. I really like to keep my space tidy and clean as much as I possibly can. At least the spaces that I'm in the most, I keep clean. And again, I'm not saying put more pressure on yourself to keep your space clean, but if you have the time and you notice that you're feeling stressed out, maybe it's because your environment isn't clean. Just kind of check in, look at your space, see if everything is in its place, and if it is, good job. You can check that off the list. And if it's not, awesome, you have another tool and another tip to help you de-stress. It's also really important to declutter not only your physical space, but your digital space. So whether you are following way too many accounts on Instagram, I have a video all about that, like taking a social media break. That did wonders for my stress levels. And if that's something that you think could serve you and you've been thinking about it, then I definitely recommend you go watch that video. Okay, I just shifted the angle a little bit because the shadows are getting crazy. Number 8 is to read. When I say read, for the purposes of this video, in order to de-stress, I recommend reading fiction as opposed to like self-help or personal development, because while those are good when you have a clear mind, I think that when you are feeling stressed out, that's probably going to make you feel more stressed out because it's kind of giving you more to do and putting more pressure on yourself. So for me, when I'm feeling stressed out, I really like to read fiction books. My favorite is Harry Potter. It just completely takes me out of my own world and puts me into another one. And while I'm not recommending that you just check out of your life, I think that if you are feeling stressed out, a good way to kind of release all of that for a little bit is to read. I recommend picking up your favorite book or a new book. Maybe just read the first page. Maybe it will draw you in. Maybe you'll want to keep reading it. And if not, pick up something else, something that you know you love. Just give it a shot, because I know that when I finish reading something, I feel a lot better about myself and I feel accomplished. That's a really good feeling when you feel out of control and stressed out. To feel like you checked something off your list or you accomplished something can be really supportive. Number 9 is to make a Pinterest board. I also talked about this in my detoxing social media video if you want to go watch that, but making a Pinterest board is such a great way to de-stress. So personally, when I log on to Pinterest, it shows me things that I love, things that I've been pinning already. And a lot of the time what that is like really aesthetic, soft landscapes or flowers or just really peaceful, beautiful pictures. I'll insert one right here to give you an example of kind of the things that I see. This is such a great way to fill my mind with peaceful things. You can obviously search for whatever you want and see pictures of literally anything that you want, things that calm you and bring you peace, as opposed to like going on Instagram and just creating more stress by seeing other people's lives and what they're doing and then comparing yourself. And so that's something that has been really powerful for me. I definitely think that Pinterest can be a tool, honestly, for creating peace and grounding. You could even make a vision board through your Pinterest boards if you want. That's also something else that you could do. So number 10 is grounding music. This is going to look different for everyone, but for me, one of my favorite things to listen to is like Hawaiian instrumental music, because that is so grounding to me. At times in my life, I've listened to Disney instrumentals because that makes me feel safe, like I was when I was a kid. Other times in my life, I would listen to meditation instrumentals, like meditation music. Other times I would listen to classical instrumentals. It really all depends on what is soothing for you. Honestly, it could be your favorite artist. It doesn't have to be instrumentals. For me, listening to Alanis Morissette's music is really grounding because she is my favorite singer. So anytime I hear a song of hers, even though it might be a rock song, it still is de-stressing for me because it's comforting. I definitely recommend listening to music. Maybe branch out and listen to something that you've never listened to before. Hawaiian instrumentals might be your thing. I didn't know that they were mine until I tried it. So try it. Number 11, I'm out of fingers now. But number 11 is to do something like a puzzle or a board game or a craft of some kind. Like I mentioned, making a vision board. Any of these kinds of things are going to take your mind off of the chaos and have you focus on one thing at a time. It's really also good for the brain to just be focused on one thing, on one task at a time. That is very de-stressing and very calming. If you notice that you're starting to get stressed out by that, obviously stop. But I know a lot of the times the stress that I experience is from external stimuli. So if I can block that out and just be focused on one thing so that my brain is not just spinning on a ton of different things, if I can just focus on one thing, that is healthy and that is calming for me. Whether it's painting, playing drums or an instrument, doing a puzzle or a board game, any of these kinds of things are going to be very calming and almost meditative, which is obviously calming and de-stressing. So I recommend something like that. Number 12 is to walk in nature. I already mentioned that having the sun on your skin is so vital, but it's also vital to be surrounded by plants and trees and grass and fresh air and sounds of water running or whatever nature you have around you. Like to hear the birds chirping and to see little squirrels running around. That is the environment that we are meant to be in. I know it's so easy when you're feeling stressed out to just want to sit in your room on your laptop or just stay in the house, but if you have the discipline to get outside, that is one of the most powerful tools. Nature is a healer. Nature is healing. It's healing to the body, to the mind, to the soul. And I notice even when I'm driving in my car, if I can just put the window down and turn off the music when I'm feeling stressed out or overstimulated or overwhelmed, just to put my windows down a little bit and just to hear the cars passing by or the birds chirping outside, those are immediately calming to me and immediately grounding. So that's something, nature is all around you unless you live in a city. But if you do, go outside to somebody's house with plants on the sidewalk and just like sit there and look at the plants for a couple minutes. So number 13, and there's only one more after this. So number 13 is to make some tea. I highly recommend staying away from caffeine. And I know everybody turns to coffee. I turn to coffee just as much as anybody else, but tea is what is going to be calming and de-stressing. So obviously you can go to the store and find a calming tea with calming herbs. Definitely add lemon, definitely add stevia. I didn't really like tea before I started adding those two things in, and then it just changed everything for me. Just to have that ritual of saying like, okay, I'm stressed out, I'm going to make something warm and soothing for my body. Your body will appreciate it, I promise you. And if you want to make coffee, you really want to make coffee, I recommend decaf. You're probably judging me for recommending decaf, but I recommend staying away from caffeine. And number 14, the last one, is to go look at my Instagram post because I listed a whole ton more things that you can do if you are trying to cultivate peace. So I'm not going to list them all here. I listed some of them here, but I have like 20 something different ways to cultivate peace on that post. Go follow me on Instagram at Emma Fretz. Also go follow me on TikTok because I just made a TikTok. I post mostly music videos there, like me playing guitar and singing covers. If you're into that kind of thing, go follow me on there as well. I hope that these tips were supportive for you. Seriously, implementing them and taking action on them is the only way that is actually going to work for you. Watching this video, yes, it can be calming just to think about all the things that you could be doing, but it's most supportive, obviously, when you are following through on it and taking action. Please do that for yourself. Make a list and just start checking it off if you're feeling like really overwhelmed or stressed out at all. I promise, doing these, you're guaranteed to feel at least a little bit better. And that's all we're asking for, is to just de-stress a little bit. I hope that you are staying safe and healthy right now, finding ways to ground, finding ways to stay well, stay peaceful, and stay loving life, even though it can feel very hard, and I'm with you on that. But I hope that these tips can sort of help remind you what's important in life and just stay positive as much as possible during these times. I love you guys. Seriously, thank you for subscribing and watching. I am so grateful to have you guys here, all the new people who have been subscribing over the last couple of months. I seriously appreciate you. Please leave me a comment letting me know what else you do to de-stress and to calm down, because as always, I just love sharing tips on here. I think it's really valuable and I love hearing what you guys have to say. I hope to see you very soon in my next video. Stay well. Bye. Mwah.